host, Kevin Barrier, and welcome to 5 Dubs Marketing Pros, where we highlight awesome brands and the stories behind them, and maybe just maybe geek out on all things marketing. All right, so real talk. So running a business can be lonely. You've got ideas flying around, you've got deadlines looming in the background like an overbearing shadow, and you've got a million things demanding your attention. But what if you had somebody in your corner that could help you stay focused, filter out the noise, and actually execute your best ideas? So that's exactly what today's guest does. She calls herself a professional wing woman, and she's built a career around helping entrepreneurs find clarity and focus and connection through collaboration, communication, and smart strategies. So let's dive in today and learn about how a wing woman can transform the way you market and you lead and you grow as a leader. So without further ado, please welcome Jennifer Anderson, the professional wing woman. Hey, Jennifer.
Hey, Kevin, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to have this conversation. So you and I were able to speak a few weeks ago to get prep for this episode, and it was such a fun conversation. You have such a great energy about you.
It
So I'm
was.
excited
Thank
about
you.
this. Yeah.
Awesome.
S-
Thanks.
Yeah, so let's dive right in. What I really love about when I heard the term professional wing woman, to me it's kind of like the most beautiful iteration of a brand, because it's a persona, right? It has a
Mhm.
lot of different pieces to this idea that when you expand it out really expands elliptically. So I want to kind of just let you run wild here. Talk to me a little bit about what a professional wing woman is, how you kind of coined that term or came up with that term, and talk a little bit about how your past experiences like really have uniquely equipped you to be a professional wing woman. Tell me a little bit about that.
You bet. Yeah. So, it's something that I've been my whole life. I've always been a collaborator. I was just born that way. And my prior to my career as a wing woman, I had a career in fitness, corporate fitness for a hospital-based wellness center, and I was part of the leadership there for over 20 years, and was always the wing woman to, when the people that I reported to have to send a sensitive email. You need a wing woman. Let me check it out for you. Communication. I know that that is one of my strengths, and that's not everybody's strength. And particularly, sometimes leaders need some help. Um, recognizing that and honing their message so that it's going to be heard and understood. So I was particularly good at that. So it was always a case of, if you need a wing woman, this is where I'm at. I got you. And really collaborating to create programs, to create offers, to create the messaging that surrounds what we did in fitness. Um, and not only that, I've also always used that term even for my kids. Like, mom is your wing woman. You are going to go out and do the talking, and I will be right here if you need something. But this is you, like, you're front and center. But I got your back. So that's just kind of always come naturally to me. And I'm also a product of my own service. I have the most success when I am collaborating with people, and I know that. So when I was in fitness, for um, I hired people who were better than me and smarter than me, and that I could learn from. And that made me better at my job, and it made them better at their job. So it was pretty evident that that was just sort of who I always was. So when that name sort of started landing organically when I created my own business, I stepped away from my corporate um, after a really long time and decided, I'm going to try this on my own and step out and partner with some people and see what the market needs. And I was right. um, the market needed a professional wing woman. So that's where I kind of landed. I don't get anybody dates. I get that question every once in a while. They go, "You're going to get people dates?" I'm not getting people dates, but that's a whole different podcast. So,
Absolutely. So what I really loved is, with your background in health and fitness, we have a client that's in the health and fitness industry, and much of what that industry is based around is to motivate and to inspire, but also to challenge. And I understand being a professional wing woman does not make you a professional yes woman, right? So, and sometimes, challenging clients, or well, challenging anyone really, it can be uncomfortable, but you have to like strike this balance between like support and honest accountability. So I would imagine as a professional wing woman, you do that a lot. So how do you navigate that space?
yeah, I'm really clear with my clients that I'm not going to be a yes woman. Um, but I will be a sounding board for them. I will let them sort of like data download what's in their brain and then let's talk through it. And sometimes I hear them say something like, this is the direction I want to go. This is the offer I want to make. And I can see it in their body language and I can hear it in their words. And I'm like, I'm not sure that is what you want to do. Let's talk about that more. And then we have an opportunity to sort of unpack all of that. Like, why do you want to go in that direction? Well, I think I should. People have asked for it. Well, do you love doing it? Is that really your expertise, your area of genius? If you don't love doing it, let's figure out how we can kind of, direct that in a different path. So, and I think people appreciate that. I know it would be real easy for me to say, sure, yeah, yeah. But it's like that's that sort of critical thinking and that assisting in their decision making to say, like, let's really think about what we want to do and then how we want to present all of that. And then we'll kind of take it from there.
Well, and I think so for entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
I think by and large entrepreneurs, they welcome that feedback, right? But they have feelings too, right? Things can hit them hard, right? And I think sometimes that could, I wouldn't say overtake them, but it could play a role in them being reluctant to having this sounding board that you provide, among so many other things. So, why do you think perhaps maybe it's so hard for business owners to find that kind of sounding board or partner in their endeavor? A lot of times CEOs are seen as lone wolves, right?
Yep.
And kind of on their own island. So why do you am I right in saying that? Am I off? Or if so, why do you think sometimes it's so hard for leaders uh to let people in that way to make them better professionally?
I think it's a couple of different things. I think one of them is that lots of times they think like, I've already gotten here. I should know this. I should know this. I'm going to just go with what I know instead of understanding that you don't know what you don't know. And that sometimes it's hard to see the label from inside the bottle. So when somebody else is kind of has the ability to look at you from that 360-degree view and tell you like, this might be a better way to go, this might be a better message to send or communication style to have, um, that can be really impactful, but they kind of get stuck in that like and particularly, CEOs, small business owners, sure, but even execs in corporations, you can't really have those conversations with the people who report to you, right? Because it could be about them. And the people that you report to think you already know, and you don't want to show that sort of weakness of, ooh, it's like like a sitcom episode where they don't know what the project is, but they're afraid to ask the boss. You know what I mean? So it's like, so they kind of get stuck in that space. And if they don't have anybody to really collaborate with and sort of bounce things off of and dig into all of the data and information that they have, it can be really tough. It can get really sticky. And also for entrepreneurs, a lot of it too, I think, is comfort because they've had a little bit of success or maybe a lot of success, and this is working. So I'm good. I'm going to stay right here because I'm craving that comfort. And if I decide to pivot or make a change or send a new message, well, that could change everything. So I think there's that like fear of change, sort of staying comfortable, that prevents people from really reaching out and saying like, "Hey, can we talk this through? Because this isn't really working," or "I want to go further." You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think a good way of putting that is it's not uncommon even for entrepreneurs, but really anybody in the professional space, but we're talking about entrepreneurs who kind of represent the largest visionary bandwidth. But
Mhm.
you could call that them getting in their own way,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So and I would assume, perhaps many times, or sometimes at least, that entrepreneurs don't see that. They don't realize that they have this mechanism inside of themselves to get in their own way. So, how would a leader or an entrepreneur that's getting in their own way, like what could they look out for? Or, can you walk me through like what that actually looks like in practice and maybe how a leader could identify and be like, "Oh, I'm doing that.
Yes.
I need to find a better way."
Yeah. A lot of it is analysis paralysis and really thinking and thinking and thinking and not taking action. So they get stuck in that hamster wheel of just one more set of data to look at, one more opinion to get, or whether or not they have a wing woman, but we're going to bring it to the team one more time, or I'm going to go ahead and think about this one more time. I had a client that really had a really great idea for a course, great idea for a course. We thought about it and we thought about it and we thought about it until I was like, we're done thinking about it. Let's go. Like they need somebody to help them sort of like push them off the cliff a little bit. Like we can think about this until we're blue in the face and keep coming up with something. But if you want to, if you want the confidence, you have to take the action first. You can't wait for the confidence to then take the action because it's never going to happen. So, action first creates that confidence. And then that's kind of what I get to help my people with is I get to help them by giving them some of the confidence that I have in them and their product and their services that they might not have. So they can borrow from me until they feel like they have their own.
No, I think that's great because when you think about that, confidence versus action, right?
Mhm.
You're saying, action, then confidence, because action will breed and grow confidence. And,
Right.
to a lot of people, to myself included, that feels like we're backing in to the solution. But when you look at it through a critical lens, it actually like you get to the point or the goal first, right?
Yeah.
And then let that continue to build you up and grow and make you stronger in those areas. And I feel like for you in working with C-suite levels and CEOs and these visionaries, you have to I suppose you'd have to be attuned to kind of like hearing what isn't being said, right? You
Yep.
mentioned that to me, hearing what isn't being said.
Yep.
And, talk to me a little bit about what that means because that really stuck with me. And it's very philosophical, and kind of esoteric when you think about it. But in your view, can talk to me a little bit about what you mean on you being able to hear what isn't being said, and then how does that help your entrepreneurs? Identify missed opportunities or gaps in things like marketing or just
Mhm.
in their operational side of business.
Yeah. Um, that is one of my strengths is my people skills and my ability to do just what you said, which is hear what isn't being said. So sometimes we're having those conversations about, the vision and the mission, and they're saying one thing, but I'm watching them, even if it's two-dimensional on a Zoom, and I can see their body language is telling me something else. Or the words that they're using are much more carefully chosen than I know them to be. And I'm like, this is not exactly how you want to be doing this. And I can see it. So what's in the way? It's usually fear or that lack of confidence or what we should be doing. We keep shoulding on ourselves, should be doing this, but it's that fear or that lack of confidence. And I can hear it when they're not even saying it. They might be gung ho, this is what we're going to do. We're going in this direction. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if that's what you really want to do. And then we have a chance to unpack that. Ultimately, they can decide. And really, just like anything else, it's all kind of a series of experiments, isn't it? We're going to try something. And if it doesn't work, okay, then we're going to try something else. Um, but yeah, I do, that is something that I have as one of my strengths that I can really, understand people pretty well.
So let me ask you. You said it's a matter of experimenting, right? Which you're
Mhm.
absolutely right. That is business. That is
Yeah.
how to conduct your business. And with experimenting, you're going to have hopefully many successes, but you're also
Right.
going to have failures, and failures are like kryptonite. Can be
Y
like kryptonite to a business leader,
Yeah.
where it also could be a great mentor. Talk to me about how you approach failure with your entrepreneurs. How do you address that with them? How do you explain it to them? Uh, as if I were your client, talk to me
Mhm.
about if I've had this just I was so sure and excited about an initiative or something, and it just flopped, and
Yeah.
I'm just discouraged and demotivated and just in my feels. I'm in the corner sucking my thumb,
Yeah.
Talk to
Yeah.
me a little bit how do I come back from that like overshadow that's over top of me because of that? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we would really wanna dig into where did we go wrong? Because certainly the whole thing wasn't a failure. Some aspect of it didn't go the way that we wanted it to do, and it's probably something to do with revenue, right? We didn't People didn't buy what we were trying to sell. People didn't enroll in what we were trying to, you know, to get them to enroll in or sell. So how come that happened? Was it the messaging? Was it the actual offer itself? Were we in the wrong rooms? Were we asking the wrong people? So then we kind of can break down like if this is really something we want to continue to pursue, what's the next iteration of that? How do we then get ourselves in front of the right people or craft that messaging and that outreach so that the people that we want to be taking advantage of this really know that this is for them. Maybe we weren't really pointing it to the right people, but certainly the whole entire thing wasn't a failure. One aspect of it was a failure, maybe a few. Um, and maybe we're going to totally change course, which is also okay because now we've learned something from that. That's not a direction we want to go. We're going to take this other fork in the road. So I think there's all kinds of ways to overcome that and just taking it really as a learning experience, which sometimes it's hard to do that in the moment, particularly when you're really excited about something and then it's like, oh, two people showed up. That's not what I wanted. I wanted 100. So then we
Exactly.
take steps to get there. Yeah.
Yes, so I loved doing this little exercise because I think it really demonstrates just how powerful having a wing woman in your corner is, right? A professional wing, because, as an entrepreneur, ultimately you want to embrace feedback, right? But like I said, I mean, people are people. They have emotions, right? There's pride on, why didn't they sign up for my, webinar or seminar, or why
Yeah.
aren't they buying my product? I think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And
Yeah.
you beyond in addition to the many things you bring, one thing I think that really resonates is that you are to a degree on the outside looking in
Hmm.
at the situation, but you also have a seat at the window on the inside looking out as well. So you
Yeah.
have this like real balance of being able to analyze something in a logical way, where perhaps maybe an entrepreneur is skewed by the emotional impact that they're experiencing from a failure.
Yep.
So with that, so you mentioned that you have a client that I think you said was launching a new program, or something to that degree. Talk to me about a story where you collaborated with a client from perhaps maybe a marketing perspective, because we're marketing geeks here.
Yep.
So talk to me a little bit about, like, give me a success story that you've had working with the client. You don't have to give names.
Yeah.
Many entrepreneurs, yeah, I know you work behind the scenes a lot, right? So we want to make
Hmm.
sure we're respecting that anonymity. But talk to me a little bit about a success story where you really helped a client propel forward with some sort of marketing initiative.
Yeah. I have so many, but I will choose one good one
Pick
that's
the
fairly
pick the
recent.
one
Yeah.
that's like the
Pick
one that
one.
yeah.
One of my clients had really good intellectual property, like knows their business inside and out. And I said, listen, I think we need to get you into one of the rooms where all of these people are, and you need to be up on the stage to share that because that's going to make them see you in that new light and go, I want to work with that person. I don't know. I don't know what I would even talk about. In about 10 minutes of brainstorming, we came up with two ideas, um, pitched them, which I knew that they were going to go well. I had all the confidence. Yes, we were selected for that event. My person got to be up on the stage in a standing room only, 50 people in the room, 14 people on the calendar after that. 5 new clients-ish out of that. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Now, we have that sort of first of all, we have that confidence because we took the action. So now we know this might be another way that we can market ourselves to the people that really want our services. So it's not necessarily just, social media, which I love. It's not necessarily just, email campaigns, need those too, need all of the things, but also, how are you gonna network? How are you gonna market yourself to the people that really need your services and get all those people on your calendar who now are talking about you with other people? Like,
Which is incredible because what that also does is it expands that, or it provides that your client a positive return on investment of your time. I mean, so and that's, which, everyone cares about. That's, I think,
mhm,
you just doing what you do make will a byproduct of that will be success for you and success for your clients.
right.
But that's incredible. So within the marketing space, so if anyone knows me, they know I love me some AI. I jumped into AI early for our agency, early in. I travel around the United States talking about AI, but I also recognize that marketers are great at using and abusing technology.
Yeah.
Case in point, email during COVID. I know. But with AI, I also realized that, there has to be this human touch.
Yeah.
And I think what I see is entrepreneurs or any business owner, they're seeing AI as this shiny new tool that can solve all of their problems, right?
Mhm.
And I think that is probably the furthest from the truth. And
Yeah.
it also, when you're putting AI into an overly like front facing or customer facing way, you're removing the human element, which people still crave. People
Yeah.
still crave the human element, even if they don't want to admit it. So, talk to me a little bit about how you're working with your clients to help them keep the human side of their business and their marketing, even if they're, using AI or want to use AI. Like, how do you address that with your clients to make sure you're shepherding them in the right direction?
Yeah, it's so funny, Kevin. I've resisted AI because I'm into I love communications, I love marketing, I love writing, and so to me it was like AI. I was like, how dare they? How dare they come in and try to take my voice? But really, um the way that I find it to be the most impactful for my clients and myself is to use it as a tool to create the shell of what you then fill in with your humanness. And so I do think that there's some value in, the one thing that AI doesn't have, it's only as good as context, right? And the one thing that AI doesn't have is the context that we all have in our brains. So the experiences and the details and the small, little iterations of a story that only you could come up with in the language that you use. Yes, you can start to train AI to sound like you. I think, and this might be a bold statement, I think that I could spot a straight up AI with no human interaction. Now I'm sure that it can fool me. Not suggesting I'm smarter than a computer, but I'm pretty close. But but I think you can sense when it's got that like lack of connection. Um
Yeah, you
and so
can.
that's where the opportunity is. Yeah.
Yeah, AI has a fingerprint, and to a relatively trained eye. I mean, you don't have to be. I've gone down the AI rabbit hole deeply.
I
It
bet.
is I'm down here forever. I know that, and I can spot AI, right? I can spot AI, and a lot of people can. We see it all over social media
Mhm.
because it's this tool that, or it's not even being used as a tool. It's being used as a solution, and I think
Yes.
that's a big part of the problem. I've always advocated, and have shared with those that I'm teaching or training AI is that you need to use it as a tool where you're the hammer and it's the nail, right?
Right.
And and if you understand how to use AI in a way like an architect, right? And
Mhm.
entrepreneurs are great at that. Architecture helps give a line of how do you prompt to get the highest quality of answer. And if you can use it in that way to help guide your human decisions forward, I think it can be really impactful.
Yeah.
Um,
The other thing too, I just want to add really quick, Kevin, is I really, really am in favor of human connection for um commenting on social media. It, I am telling you, I can spot those bots and the pods a mile away when it's that automatic comment. Like, help me understand why you don't want to take 2 minutes to comment. It would be, to me, that's one thing that I really make sure that my clients do. If they're not commenting on something that they posted, I am. Somebody is, but it's hands on a keyboard because that part of it is like, you know, I mean, that's like the cherry on top, right? You have somebody that's interested in your stuff enough to have commented in some way, and so don't send them back some AI generated something. Get to know them even through the computer screen that way, and then that's how you create those connections.
and I think you're absolutely right. So a good example of that, I'm not sure. Do you happen to follow the TSA on social media at all?
No, I don't.
Do
Sounds
it.
like I should though.
It's awesome. So at the TSA, right? It's like the dry, like Transportation Securities Administration is the driest.
Mhm.
Right. Their social is awesome. It's incredible. Whoever handles the TSA's social media should get a raise immediately, because it's fantastic. And I think one of the main reasons is because they haven't lost. It's very humorous. There's a lightness to a very kind of whoa heavy brand.
Yeah.
And when they respond back, I have put their responses in AI detectors just to see, and it's coming back like 99 to 100% human. So I feel like if it's not human, they've done a great job on training their bot. But
Yeah.
the TSA is a great example because, like I said, people do want this human interaction, even when they
Right.
say they don't. Again, case in point, COVID, right? And in the professional world, in my world, I'm sure in your world too, people were really excited to get back to in-person events. We
Yeah.
at our association, we held our event virtually for a year or two, and our members were genuinely happy to get back in person.
Yeah.
Which is great. We
Yeah.
humans need human connection, and we have to make sure that that's tethered.
Yeah, and if you're funny and you have a good sense of humor, why would you ever hide that? Like, get that out there because then people really notice and remember, and they're like, "I want more of that." Like,
Absolutely.
you yeah,
And it's if you can start building conversation on social media algorithmically, you gain a boost.
oh,
Austin
yeah.
Armstrong, one of the best social media viral intent content creators.
Mm,
He always Austin Armstrong, great guy. Uh, Loves AI too. But
cool.
he's not afraid to troll the trolls sometimes, right? Because more comments equal higher visibility on social. So, keep that conversation going.
Yeah.
So I imagine with you, I feel like when I hear all of these things that you do, and I think you mentioned this earlier, it's collaboration, right? So I feel like you've really cracked the code, or maybe have mastered, being a collaborator, with your clients. Talk to me a little bit in your view. What does great collaboration look like to you in practice with a
Mm,
client? What does that look like? If I were a client, I'm looking to collaborate. Talk to me about what collaboration means to you.
yeah. I really believe in what you're doing, first of all. So there's definitely a connection there. And then we want to just get into where are you now and where do you want to go? And then in between those 2 points, there's all kinds of things that we can sort of dig through and unpack, and things that maybe you haven't thought of that aren't something that lots of times, especially entrepreneurs, their hands on the keyboard, right? Because they're doing whatever it is that they're selling. So if you're a graphic designer, you're making graphic designs all day. You don't necessarily have the bandwidth to like sort of go through what steps am I going to take to get now from, A to B and get this bigger client that I've always wanted to work with, or fill up a course that I want to start or something like that. So it's really that holistic approach to what does your whole business look like? Not what you do every day right now, but what does everything sort of look like together? And then how can we continue to cultivate that? Um, yeah.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting there, and I in my world, in the marketing agency world, we're all very networked, and
Yep.
I love hearing success stories of small agencies that are winning big. And one thing I see, and one thing that I experienced, I think you're absolutely right, because I've experienced it and I've recognized it and I've kind of adjusted my path, is, from I am a marketing geek. I love building campaigns, I love building strategy, I love assessing brands, but a part of what marketers do is sales. You have to pitch your idea. So now you have marketing strategy and business development, right? And
Yep.
if you look at business development through the lens of a marketing strategist, that's usually not a great blueprint. So you have to
Right.
understand that there are weaknesses within a game, or maybe something, things that you hate doing. I hate selling. Selling
Yeah.
sucks. No one likes selling, right? But
Everybody says that.
everyone, yeah, right. But I believe in my product,
Yep.
which are, my marketing ideas. So it makes it a little bit easier, but it
Yeah.
stings more when you live in the land of rejection. Everyone does, from sales, right? That's what gap
Yep.
planning is all about. So I feel like having that collaboration of someone who can see these angles that you're not privy to looking at, I think
Yeah.
is invaluable.
And sometimes too, it's hard to sell yourself. So wing woman, I can sell my clients all day long. That's part of what a wing woman does, right? I speak your name in rooms that you're not in. I'm talking to someone and I go, you need to be talking to this person because they have what you need. And that's selling right there. That's
It
it.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, through advocation and
Mhm.
evangelizing. I mean, which is huge. I mean, it's you're deploying out, to a degree, a very experienced and knowledgeable sales staff that believes genuinely in what you do. I mean,
Right.
it's hard to put a price tag on that, that
Yeah.
value.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like, I feel like, as we kind of close out here, this has been amazing. But talk to me about this. Like, so, eh, entrepreneurship, being a leader, is really fun. It is. It
Yeah.
can be fun, but it's also really daunting, and it will tug at your patience, and it will breed frustration, and it just, it for an entrepreneur, it puts you in this spot where it's like, man, I feel the weight of the world on my shoulders. And I feel like with you, in the joy of just how you talk about what you do, I feel like that you probably bring a lot of fun
Yeah.
into the fold. So how do you help entrepreneurs, like, rediscover the fun side of running their business when they're kind of in this funk of
Yeah.
whatever? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because really we're not curing cancer here. This is good stuff. We have the ability and the freedom to create anything we want. So it's really fun to sort of get into some of those strategy brainstorming sessions, which I'm doing right now with a lot of my clients. We're working into first quarter of 2026, almost into second quarter of 2026 with some people too. Like, this is what we want it to look like. This is where we're going. So we can kind of brainstorm, like, and then, reverse engineer in the spring. I want to offer this. So let's get there now and let's start doing that. And one of the things that I help them do is create capacity to do that, because I'm helping them, again, data download their brain, right? So we have our cadence of when we meet and what we do. And a lot of times it is still the business owner doing the thing because I can't be hands on the keyboard. I'm not a graphic designer or whatever it is that they offer. but by virtue of organizing all of the things that they have been wildly dreaming about while they're trying to do this, now we've just organized them. Now we have a plan and we can start to execute on that, even if that just means that we're coming back week after week and kind of circling that loop. Where did we get to from last week to this week? Who's doing what? What have you worked on? And a lot of times it's just the accountability of the business owner to be like, this is so great. I just had a meeting today with one of my clients that just said this was my favorite meeting we've ever had because we were creating all this stuff that she really did not think was possible. And I was like, why wouldn't that be possible? This is your business. We can do that. 100% we can do that. And she was like, I'm really excited for what's coming up. And it was like, that sounds cool. That's fun.
That's awesome.
So,
No, that
yeah,
that is fun. And
yeah,
and like when I'm listening, it's just all of these amazing things you do. Like Wing Woman is the perfect it's the perfect brand, right?
yeah.
Because you're like I'm a huge fan of show 24, right? So
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
like your central command at Jack Bauer, right? You handle all of these things to allow the entrepreneur to do what they do best,
Yeah.
right? So for entrepreneurs, small business owners, C-suite leaders, anyone who wants to propel their business forward that's listening in, what would be one simple step or one simple question perhaps or thing that they could ask themselves um, to take the next step in propelling their business forward. They may feel stuck or they may feel like it's going forward. But what's one thing that a business owner could think or ask themselves right now to search for an answer that would help just move them even 1 yard closer to the goal line?
Yeah. I think you want to think about where am I right now and where do I want to go? So what's in, the windshield in front of me, not in the rearview mirror. And then do that exercise of sort of data downloading, like write it all down, type it all out, talk to your dog if you have to. If you don't have an actual wing woman, talk to your dog. Sometimes your best friend or your husband or wife or partner, they might you might think they're listening. They're probably not listening. So talk to your dog. He'll listen. But clear those things out of your brain so that you then have capacity to be like, which one am I going to tackle first that's going to start to get me on that road? And if you are, totally comfortable, ask yourself where you want to go because you probably have some capacity there, some growth that you haven't even really explored. So, something interesting to think about.
I think that's interesting. And they could speak to their dog. They could also speak to you. And,
They could speak to me.
as we you were very humble with but I am I'm a greedy marketer and I think you're
Yes.
doing amazing things within the professional world. So I want to brag about you for a second. So,
Thank
for
you.
those that want to take that next step, Jen Anderson, professional wingwoman, find her on LinkedIn. Or you can email her as well. I'm going to share this email address, and this email address is janderson, Anderson, 5969 at gmail.com. Give
That's
her
right.
give her a shout. We'll also have this information in the show notes wherever you're listening to your podcast. This has been awesome. Is there anything, because you do so much. I mean, we could talk for hours, but
Yeah, I
is
know.
there anything that you feel like I've missed on just all of the amazing stuff you do? I'm going to ask you to talk about yourself, right? Is there
Oh
anything that
gosh.
I'm missing, or anything we haven't really touched on that you think's important for our listeners to hear, or do you think we hit it all,
I
or?
think I think we did. I think we hit a lot of it, Kevin. I enjoy talking to you. I enjoy talking about this stuff. This is more fun than I really thought that I would have when I decided to make this career shift. But it's like, man, I get to do a little bit of everything. And lots of times when people will ask me like, "Well, can you do this? Do you do this?" Most of the time my answer is, "I don't see why not. I don't see why I can't do that. Let's try it. Let's go." So there's just that aspect of like, you know, let's give it a shot. Let's see. Um,
Yeah, I think perhaps maybe thinking, not thinking about the 5 reasons why it wouldn't work, but thinking about the 1 or 2 that makes it work, or that
yeah, yeah,
could make it work. Is that,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, and that's
yeah,
hard. That is a legitimate skill to grow.
yeah. Yeah.
I think for even the most seasoned entrepreneur. Well,
Yeah, and,
that's yeah,
again, my one of the things that I did when I was in my corporate fitness career, I really like I know I've mentioned it a couple of times, but people skills are important, man. They are not soft skills. And I know I was good at that when I was in fitness, and I know I'm good at it now. So I'm confident in that skill, and the ability to be a decision maker on my client's behalf, and the ability to talk to their clients confidently and represent them in the best possible light, no matter what it is that they're doing. So that's another sort of skill that I'm really proud of that because it's taken me a long time to get here. People have said, God, don't you wish you did this 25 years ago? I'm like, no, I wouldn't have been ready.
100%. There's
Yeah,
wisdom.
yeah,
I think wisdom is undervalued.
yeah.
And, I was talking to a group in Wausau, Wisconsin
It's close to me.
about AI. Oh, there you go. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was talking about AI to some news media, and one thing I mentioned was that what I find in my industry is interestingly is the older someone is within this
Hmm.
industry, from the AI standpoint, the more likely and the more passionate they are with the idea of using it. And I think what
Hmm.
puts them in a unique position is that they have the wisdom to understand how to use it as a mechanism to grow a business forward because they understand the business, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think 25 years ago, I think in 25 years or 10 years, you've learned a lot in that time, and you're able to
Right.
apply that to your
Yeah.
clients, which I think is absolutely amazing. You're doing such
Yeah.
great things. I'm excited
Thank
to
you.
be a fly on the wall to see how you do. And I'd love to have you back sometime to talk about some
Yeah.
other success stories on how
Absolutely.
you're working with clients. Awesome.
Yeah. I love talking with you. I was just going to say part two would be awesome.
I feel like this is a good listen and a good episode. We have done good today. Let's pat ourselves on the back. Great job on us.
All right.
For everyone listening, thank you for listening. If you want to learn more about Jennifer and her Wing Woman services, don't forget get in touch with her. Again, check her out on LinkedIn, email her at janderson5969 at gmail.com and, start the process. But it sounds like the first process is look through the windshield, not the rear view, and really ask yourself the question of where do you want to go and where do you want to be, right?
Yep. Sounds great.
Perfect. There you go. We've just cracked the code. We are creating juggernauts of industry here, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you for taking the time to listen. And until next time, see ya.
Thank you.
Five Dubs Marketing Pros is hosted by me, Kevin Barrier. Our executive producer is MDDC Executive Director Rebecca Snyder. Post production by Caroline Pecora. Our theme music is by Azulu Studio. A special thank you to our guests for being with us. You can find Five Dubs and Five Dubs Marketing Pros on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts.